Nation of Fitin10, welcome to day 6 of the challenge. Closing in on that first week, almost 10% through the challenge. Goes by pretty fast. Well, maybe you might think it's only 10%. It's like nothing, we just started. And that is true, but you can see how fast this challenge will go through. Before you know it, we will be at the halfway point, and then before you know it, we'll be at the end. Before you know it, I'll be saying it is the final day. So you can see how fast it goes. Keep in mind this Saturday, I will be sending you another email with your heart rate stuff, as well as your macros. Your macros will not change this week, but I will still send them out to you again, as well as a reminder of what your mini goal is, which we will reevaluate in another 3 weeks. Something that I want to remind you of too is motility, movement, just general movement in the day. The difference between, for example, being seated in a chair and perhaps just moving around. The difference between seated in a chair and sitting completely still versus fidgeting or grabbing stuff and just moving. All movement matters, and all movement contributes towards energy expenditure, and this is going to help you in your overall balance for the day. So if you find yourself being seated for most of the day, give yourself some breaks, regular periodic breaks. Every hour or so, get up and walk around for 5 minutes. Go for a 5-minute walk outside. Or better yet, go for a walk after every time you eat. All right? And that may not be such a good piece of advice if you're only eating once or twice per day. But if you're eating 3 or 4 times per day, go for a walk after you eat. And give yourself a break. You'll probably be more productive. Reminder about this Monday, there's only 2 classes happening, in 8:30 and a 9:45. I did add in a 9:45, so please come on out. And if you haven't had a chance to do lift camp, come experience that. I will be teaching, and don't be afraid of doing the lift camps. They're not really any more advanced than what you're doing in the Fitin10. It's just that the Fitin10 is a little bit slower and maybe a little bit more basic, but they're very, very similar. All right, I'll be teaching. So, and I know there's a lot of you I haven't taught yet. So, come on out if you can make it. All right. Something else I want to just mention here. Oh, actually, before I go there, let me just quickly talk just briefly about this. The protein powder, since I was asked about this, I talked about protein powder a couple days ago. This is a great way to increase your protein intake. The protein that I spoke about last time was this particular one here, which is by ATP Lab. It's 100% certified whey protein isolate. And it's a very pure protein. There's not a lot of additives in this. And for a 30-gram scoop, you get 27 grams of protein. So by weight, it's 90% protein. So it's very, very pure. There's very little additives to this. I do carry another brand called Magnum. The difference is Magnum isn't quite as pure, but it does, because it's not as pure, it's because they've added more things in there for the flavoring. So the flavor is a little bit better, but it's not quite as pure. And also you get a little bit better value out of the Magnum. But this one is more pure. This one is a better quality. And both the Magnum and this particular one are both whey protein based. ATP Labs also has a vegan protein powder, as well as a beef protein powder. And the beef tastes super good. The vegan I have not tried, so if anybody wants to try it, just let me know and I'll give you some. But the beef chocolate is the best out of all the protein powders, actually, I find. And you might ask, well, why beef? Well, what's the point of eating beef? Like, why would you have a beef protein powder? It sounds kind of gross. Well, typically you're going to find that out of all the allergens, the beef protein is going to produce the least. All right, you're gonna get more allergens from the vegan or the whey than you are from the beef. So, all right, what else did I want to say here? Okay, my 4.5 minutes already. Wow. All right. Okay. Well, let me just briefly talk about this. If you haven't been in one of my classes yet, I'll repeat this a couple times. But when you're working out, essentially, and this is going to be totally counterintuitive. You want to try to make the exercise basically as hard as possible. That is, we want to work the muscles as hard as we can. We don't want to make the movement easier. We want to make the movement harder. I realize that's counterintuitive, but the idea here is to get the most out of the movement. So some of the ways that we do that, obviously we want to try to perfect our form. That's going to take some time. But the other thing we want to do is we want to work at squeezing the muscles that we're utilizing in the movement. So myself or Ken or whoever's teaching should remind you of that. So squeezing those muscles and also really watching our tempo, so the speed of the movement. So essentially on all the eccentric portions of the movement, which that probably doesn't mean a whole lot to you, but you can think of it as the part where the muscle, that's probably not going to explain it well either. I don't know how to explain it simply to you, okay? But let me give you some examples. Eccentric would be like, if I'm doing an overhead press, it would be like when I bring the weight down, okay? Or if I'm doing a chest press, when the weight is coming down. Quite often it's when the weight is coming down. There are some examples where that's not the case. For example, if you're on a machine doing like a lat pull down, it would be on the way up. Squats on the way down, lunges on the way down. Quite often is on the way down, okay? That's where the eccentrics come in. That's where we're gonna really pay attention to the amount of time we spend during that portion or phase of the movement. So just think about, for sake of simplicity, this is not a universal rule, but generally speaking, on the way down, we're going to really focus on being slow and controlled, making the muscles work, trying to get as much range of motion as possible, okay? All right, message of the day. Short-term consistency, nope, excuse me, not short-term consistency. Long-term consistency over what? Over short-term perfection. Definitely over short-term, or even just perfection. We don't want to shoot for perfection. Well, that's not true. We do want to shoot for perfection, but really, there's going to be times where we mess up, or we forget, or we self-sabotage. The list goes on. But really, it's about getting up and keeping on moving forward, right? Long-term consistency over short-term perfection. It's not about that one super hard workout, or it's not about that one day of good eating, but instead it's all about being consistent with all the principles over time and being as perfect as we can, as close to being, at least, adhering to the tenets as closely as we can over time. All right. And that's what's really going to produce the progress, not that workout was 90%, it wasn't 100%. Or, I was a little bit off my macros today. This is futile. There's no point to it. No. This is all part of the process, okay? Long-term consistency over short-term perfection. Positive energy, positive vibes. Believe in yourself. For the love of God, give some gratitude. And I will talk to you all tomorrow.